Theme is an important part of understanding what we read. When a reader identifies a theme, he or she discovers the meaning or message of the text. The theme may describe the people, life, or the world in which we live in. Theme knows no boundaries and can be understood by many cultures. Some fiction stories may include more than one theme. Think about Charlotte's Web, a fiction story where a talking spider helps a pig. There are many themes that can be found, including self-sacrifice, true friendship, and perseverance. Another fiction story that contains the theme of perseverance is The Tortoise and the Hare. Other themes we see in that story are slow and steady wins the race, and a lesson in humility. The Ugly Duckling, the story of a plain little duckling that grows up to be a beautiful swan. In this story, the reader may find the themes of patience, self-confidence, and the importance of individuality. Identifying the theme requires the reader to make inferences and draw conclusions while reading. The reader may also make connections to their own lives or other pieces of literary fiction. In order to compare the themes or morals of fiction texts, the reader must consider the characters, perspective, author's purpose, genre, and other elements of fiction. Let's compare two fiction texts, The Tortoise and the Hare and The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds. Both are works of fiction. One has animals, the other a student at school. One has two main characters, while the other has one main character. They both have themes of not giving up or overcoming a challenge. The tortoise pushes to win the race, and Vashti pushes herself to become a better artist. Even though these two texts come from different subgenres, traditional literature and realistic fiction, they contain the same message or overall theme. Other texts that come from the same genre may have very different themes. The next time you read, consider the elements of fiction to help you draw conclusions about the theme.
Okay, so what do we need to look at when we're talking about? Okay, so comparing and contrasting similar themes and topics. Now, raise your hand if you don't remember how to compare and contrast. If you don't remember.
I don't remember comparing and contrasting.
Okay, so what does it mean to compare something, Kim? Close. Fashion.
Comparing something is like two things different, but you're like trying to make them the same.
Whoa, so what does it mean to compare, Abby?
To see the similarities.
The similarities, the way they are alike. So if we're talking about a Venn diagram, where does this go on your Venn diagram? Is it on the outside or in the middle? Look at your notebook.
In the middle.
Just in the middle, your similarities. So you're comparing how they are alike in the middle. And contrast means to do what? Like,
To see the difference.
to find the differences. So if I'm comparing and contrasting Kim, I'm looking for the ways that they're alike and ways that they are different. Okay? Alright, so standard today is compare and contrast the treatment of similar themes and topics. Example is opposition of good and evil, and pattern of events like the quest in stories, myths, and traditional literature from different cultures. So, for instance, how many of you know the story of Cinderella? How many of you know that there's many different versions of Cinderella?
I don't really
Even Frank watched it.
There's
There's many different versions of Cinderella. We'll happen to look at
I
some.
don't really know
At a point in
about
time.
Cinderella.
Alright, put your hands down.
Princess girls.
I can't say, but I can identify similar themes, topics, and patterns of events found in stories, myths, and traditional literature from different cultures. Treat the same theme, topic, or pattern of events. There's a missing word in there somewhere.
I can identify.
Okay, but that is what we will be able to do by the end of this whole unit. Okay, so hopefully by next week we'll be able to accomplish this. So, in your notebook, underneath where you have your Venn diagram, you need to write this nice little note. Okay, you can compare and contrast themes, topics, and events or plots by using a Venn diagram. Now, what on the outside? See?
The differences.
The differences, and on the inside? Similarities. So comparing is on the inside, contrasting is on the outside. So questions to ask yourself. Write a couple of these down on the other side of your paper, please. How are blank and blank? Those blanks are just going to stay blank. But if we're thinking about what we're reading, how are those two stories similar or alike? How is those two stories different from each other? Self and show you guys how I think about it, and then you'll do the next one. So I'm going to read both of these. Similar to when you take the state test, you'll have two stories you have to read and then answer questions, right?
Okay.
So team captain. Now what are the things I need to look for again? Because I forgot already. Dylan?
Author's purpose, theme.
Author's purpose for writing.
Theme.
I'm trying to figure out the theme. What helps me determine the theme, Darren? What helps me determine the theme?
Evidence.
Evidence. So I gotta make
Inferences.
inferences. Braylon.
The moral message or lesson of the story.
I gotta think about the other characters and the other story elements in the story too, right? Alright, so team captain. As I looked up at the scoreboard, my heart began to race. I had just 26 seconds left on the clock to score a touchdown and win the game. The pressure of being team captain was a lot to handle in times like these. I set my anxiousness aside, explained the play to everyone in the huddle, and assumed my position. As the ball screamed so loud, no, I missed them. As the ball flew in my direction, I ran as fast as I could. I felt like I was flying. The crowd screamed so loud when I scored the touchdown that I couldn't help but be filled with pride for myself and for the Sharks. This will be a night that I will never forget. Championships, here I come. So after I read that, I'm thinking to myself, well, this is first person point of view
Yes.
because I've got a lot of eyes in my reading.
And first.
I'm also thinking,
There's more eyes.
There's-
Tons.
I know there's more eyes than that.
I see
I'm
another
also
one.
thinking that this person is probably,
One,
person,
2, 3.
guys, I understand there's more than what I circled. Okay? But I'm also thinking after I read this person, whoever is writing, is pretty determined to win, or determined to be successful. Nope. You're not supposed to be writing anything. Remember, I'm doing this one to show you how to do it. Let's see. This person is at a basketball game. Alright, so let me read the next one. A winning team. Troy, the captain of the team, called a timeout for a quick team huddle. The game was tied, and with just a few seconds left on the clock, they needed a play that would send them to victory. They broke the huddle and got in position. The crowd was at the edge of their seats. What a nail-biter this was going to be. The ball went flying directly towards Troy, who caught it with ease. The crowd's eyes darted to Troy. They cheered him on as he raced to the end zone. Touchdown, the crowd went wild, and the Sharks were officially headed to the championship.
It is.
So, it sounds like these two stories to me are the same story, just told from a different point of view. This one is from the third point of view. And I know this because I have somebody's name. I have they. I have he in here.
Choose a him.
I have a him.
Yeah, and there's
Okay. I also know that this story is at a basketball game.
It's not a basketball.
It's
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 football.
Football?
Yeah, it's touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
You don't do touchdowns in
this would be football
basketball.
too.
You
This is football too. Sorry.
Touchdown.
Thank you.
You all call football.
Yeah. I also know that this Troy person, Troy seems to be, what do I want to say? Troy's the team captain. Troy is determined. So I can see as I'm looking at it, it's like, character uses the same one up here too. Determined to win. Alright, so if I look at my questions, what is the similarity between both passages? These are my options. Both passages explain all the characters' feelings. Both passages shows Troy's feelings. Both passages are about the Sharks winning the game. Both passages have the exact same beginning and ending. Well, both passages talk about the Sharks and about how they won. So I'm going to go with C. And then the difference between the passages, in the second passage we know the crowd's feelings, but the first passage we don't. Well, I'm going to look back. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well, right here, in the first one it says the crowd screamed so loud, so I can make an inference that the crowd was excited. And then down here it says the crowd's eyes darted to Troy. They cheered him on as he raced to the end zone. So again, I can make an inference and say that, the crowd's pretty excited, right? So I know the crowd's feelings. In the first passage, we know how many seconds are left on the clock, but in the second passage, we do not.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. I have 26 seconds here, but I have just a few seconds left.
So basically,
There is no major difference. Or in the first passage, we know exactly how Troy is feeling and what he's thinking, but in the second passage, we only know his action. Well, we know his feelings in the first one because he talks about being anxious. Talks about being captain has a lot of pressure. But it doesn't really talk about his feelings in this one. So I would go with D.
yay!
This one we know how he's feeling, this one we don't. It could possibly be B as well. Because we know seconds here and it just says a few seconds here.
I'm also going to know both. You read the team captain first and then the team and then also read their off.
So then what is the advantage of the story being written in first person? So being written in first person compared to being written in third person, what is the difference between those two? Abby?
First person, they would do that feelings and actions and
You know, thoughts, feelings, and actions of just that one character, right?
And third person, they would use multiple characters.
So that we know what about multiple characters, Brody? Their feelings and actions.
It isn't just the key word.
It's not just about the key word.
Yeah, like in this book.
Okay, what is the advantage of the story being written in first person? The reader can see the bigger picture and understand all the characters. Well, if we have first person, we don't see more than one character, right?
No.
The reader is completely aware of how one character feels and what thoughts are going through their head. There is no specific advantage to a story being written in first person, and the reader does not know more information. Well, in first person, we get to know one character's feelings. Where in third person, we get more than one, right? So I wouldn't say there's not any information. But I also don't think knowing just one compared to know all, is that an advantage?
No.
Not really. But being first person, you're going to know exactly how that one character feels, right? Quiet. If you've ever watched Thor, you're aware of Thor's hammer. And Perseus and Medusa. How many of you know who Medusa is? The lady with the snakes. Alright, go ahead. Read them together at a table. And then discuss.